will take place this Thursday, March 16th, starting at 10:06 virtually via WebEx. As always, good morning. So great to be with you all. Thank you all for joining us. We'll begin with a roll call. We'll start with CB1.
Good morning, Madam Deputy. Anthony Jordan, District Manager.
Good morning, Anthony. CB2.
Good morning, Madam Deputy. Rafa Acevedo, District Manager. And we will be joined shortly by Chairman Crespo. He's just on another meeting, but he'll be joining us shortly. Thank you. Good morning, all.
Wonderful. Good morning, Rafael. CB3.
Good morning, Deputy Madam Chair. It's Etta Ritter, and I have with me my first vice, Joetta Brown.
Good morning. Welcome, Joetta. CB4. CB5.
Sorry. Good morning, Deputy Borough President and everyone. This is Ken Brown, District Manager, Board 5.
Good morning, Ken. CB6. CB7.
Good morning, Deputy Bronx Borough President, Jahaira Arias, Chair of Community Board 7.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Carla Cabrera Carrera, Deputy District Manager.
Good morning, Carla. CB8.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday. Laura Spalter, Chair, Bronx Community Board 8.
Good morning, Madam Chair. CB9.
Good morning, Madam Deputy. This is Shirley San Andres Alonso, Deputy District Manager at Community Board 9.
Good morning, Shirley. CB10.
Good morning. I'm Peter Cantillo, the first Vice Chairman, CB10.
Good morning. CB11. CB12.
Good morning, this is Ursula Green, Community Coordinator, Board 12. I have my first Vice Chair, Mr. Clinton Mike, and my Secretary, Ms. Judy Benitez, should be joining us.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We're going to call council member reps, starting with Deputy Madam Speaker, CM Diana Ayala.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Madam Deputy. This is Stephanie Herrera from Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala.
Thank you. Good morning. Council member Eric Dinowitz, District 11. District 12.
Good morning, Madam Deputy. Good morning, everyone. Simone Jones, Chief of Staff for Councilmember Riley.
Deputy, we may have lost your audio.
If I may, I'll continue with the roll call. Councilwoman Marjorie Velasquez, Rep. 13th Council District.
Good morning, everyone. This is Stephanie Rodriguez here on behalf of Councilmember Velasquez's office.
And moving on to Councilwoman Sanchez of the 14th District.
Good morning, Samantha Cardenas, Councilmember Paving Sanchez.
Thank you. Council Member Feliz of the 15th District. Council Member Stevens, the 16th District.
Good morning, everyone. Kate Connolly, Chief of Staff for Councilmember Althea Stevens.
Council Member Salamanca, the 17th District.
Good morning to all. Shanna Knotts, representing Councilmember Salamanca, Chief of Staff.
Council Member Farias, the 18th District.
Good morning, everyone. Randy Malman, Chief of Staff for Councilmember Amanda Farias.
Thank you all.
So sorry, this is Jenna Klaus from Councilmember Eric Dinowitz's office. Sorry, I'm late.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Is there anyone else that we may have missed? With that, hopefully the deputy has her.
Trying.
Oh, you gotcha.
Listen, it's not a successful meeting if we don't have audio issues, right? Thank you so much, Marisol, for holding down the roll call. I just also want to acknowledge our city agencies that have joined us this morning. We have NYCDP on, NYC Department of Aging, DOHMH, and DOT. Did I miss anyone else from our city agencies?
EDC is here as well.
We know that. Thank you, Nate. So as always, the Bronx Borough President's Office has built a robust agenda for today's Borough Board and Service Cabinet meeting. And those items include a presentation from NYCEDC on the Together for Kingsbridge visioning process. We have our very own Dr. Misha Porter from the Bronx Community Foundation, and also the Literacy Academy Collective will be presenting this morning. And we will conclude with calling a vote on our borough budget priorities report. And so with that, we want to once again thank you for joining us this morning, and your participation and collaboration is much appreciated. First up, we want to call up NYC EDC. We have Fernando Ortiz, Assistant Vice President, and Nate Gray as well, presenting on the Together for Kingsbridge initiative. Really quickly, a quick summary on the Armory. It first opened in 1917, but has now been vacant for almost 30 years. And the Armory is one of the Bronx's most vital landmarks. And so today, the city has a historic opportunity to redevelop the Armory, placing the needs and the priorities of Bronx residents and business owners at the center of the process. We would like to take the opportunity to recognize Councilwoman Pierina Sanchez and her team for their advocacy and leadership, as well as the Bronx delegation and the City Council for securing millions in funding towards capital and structural improvements of the Armory. We want to note that this is a project that not only impacts the Kingsbridge district and community and its surrounding neighborhoods, but one that will be felt borough-wide. And so we all, as stakeholders, residents, and community leaders, must take a part of this process to build a collective vision for a future Kingsbridge Armory that contributes to the cultural and economic vitality of the borough. And so with that, we want to hand over the virtual floor to the EDC team. Thank you so much, Fernando and Nate, for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Wonderful. Thank you all for inviting me here today, Madam Deputy Borough President and Borough President team. I'm happy to see a lot of familiar faces here who I worked for and worked with throughout the years. So today I'm here with Nate Gray. Nate, I don't know if you want to wave, introduce yourself quickly.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nate Gray. Fernando and I work together at the Economic Development Corporation. I'm a vice president in the Neighborhood Strategies Department.
Thank you, Nate. And I am an assistant vice president in the Government and Community Relations team. And together with our community working group, which is co-chaired by Councilmember Pierina Sanchez and Sandra Lobo from the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, we have been leading a community vision plan process called Together for Kingsbridge. So I'm gonna mute myself for 10 seconds and share my screen, sharing screen capacity. Perfect. Can everyone see my screen?
I think it's loading a little bit. Yeah, if you can just reshare.
As the deputy said, it's not a successful meeting if you don't have an audio or tech issue. Here we go. Okay. Let's try this. See my screen right now?
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect. Okay, let me see now. There we go. Can everyone see it? Awesome. There we go. I know it's going to be a success now. So today we're here in front of the Bronx Borough Board to present on our Together for Kingsbridge or Juntos para Kingsbridge Community Vision Plan process. So in terms of community engagement, we have been engaging with residents, workers, community groups, small businesses, faith-based, street vendors, everyone in between to define a vision for the Armory's future. The goal to release a vision document this spring. We are targeting June 1st as our target date for release of that vision plan. This image here is an image from our last public workshop, which we've had two to date, which I'll get into details in a bit. So when we started this process in November of 2022, we formed a community working group, which is chaired by our co-chairs, Councilmember Pierina Sanchez and Sandra Lobo from the Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition. We also have representatives or the electeds themselves on our community working group, which includes the borough president's team, where Madam Deputy Janet Peguero comes every month, so thank you, and her team. We have Congressman Adriano Espaillat, Senator Robert Jackson, Senator Gustavo Rivera, and Assemblymember George Alvarez, as well as a diverse array of community stakeholders. I won't list them out all, but you can see that we targeted, to have representation from different sectors that we thought were very important to have represented in this process, but also stakeholders who have been engaged around redevelopment throughout the years to make sure that their voices continue to be heard. Just a little bit of history of the Armory. As mentioned, it was constructed, or final construction was completed in 1917. And from 1917 till 1994, it operated as an armory. In 1996, it was transferred to the city of New York and has been vacant or has not had a permanent use since 1996. Throughout those decades, though, it has been used for show, exhibitions, and filming. This past summer, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel was being shot there, some portions of it, and a couple years ago, the movie I Am Legend by Will Smith was also shot within the Kingsbridge Armory. Some notable details about the Armory is that it is a landmark building on both the city, state, and federal, or on city, state, and federal level. The exterior of it particularly is a landmark. So a lot of the architectural features of the building need to be preserved. It is the largest armory in New York City and reputedly in the world. It is 2 times, sometimes 3 times larger than any other armory in New York City. So if you're familiar with the Fort Washington Armory or the Fifth Avenue or Park Avenue Armory in Manhattan or Bedford Union Armory in Brooklyn, the Kingsbridge Armory is 2 times, sometimes 3 times larger than some of the other armories. And there have been 2 previous redevelopment attempts. The first one in 2006, which was the related proposal for a shopping mall, which did not pass the city's ULURP process, was voted down. And the second in 2012, which was the Kingsbridge National Ice Center proposal, which did pass the city's land use review process and did negotiate a very successful community benefits agreement with the community stakeholders. However, they were not able to acquire the proper financing needed to execute the project, which led to a series of litigation, which only in March of 2022. So that is what brought us to the current moment in which we have the opportunity to again reimagine redeveloping the Armory. However, this time we took a step back and decided to not just release an RFP and another RFP, but to take a step back and create a community vision plan that will help ground the RFP on the values and vision that the community has for this space. So in the next couple slides, I'm going to show you just some images in terms of existing conditions. As mentioned, the Armory has been vacant for nearly 30 years, and it is in need of significant and costly repairs and restoration. This is an image of the area that is called the Drill Hall. It is 180,000 square feet and 115 feet tall at its highest point. It is a huge, huge space and the largest drill hall in the city, for sure. So if anyone has not been on one of our community tours that we're offering, join us on Friday and you can step into the drill hall. So just to give just some scale comparisons, within the Kingsbridge Armory, you can fit about 6 football fields, or as I say, 6 Rihannas, 64 Olympic pools, almost 4 New York City blocks, 274 tennis courts, 104 movie theaters, 88 bowling alleys. It is a very, very large space in its totality. We estimate that the Kingsbridge Armory is over 500, close to 600,000 square feet in total. In terms of what we've been hearing in the process, these are some of the emerging themes or uses, priority uses that we have heard thus far. But before we get into that, we want to just share engagement by the numbers. So we meet or attend monthly the community board meetings, and we've attended different committees within the community board 7 and 8. So we usually go to land use, but we've also met with education and libraries, with environmental, economic development, so across the different committees within both CB7 and CB8. We have had 6 community working group meetings, so we meet monthly as a community working group. Congressmember Adriano Espaillat had a town hall last month where we had over 200 attendees. We've had 2 the first in November of last year and the second in January of this year, where we've had over 400 people total in both of these public workshops. And we have our final and last workshop this Saturday, March 18th at Lehman, and I'll share more details at the end. We've had over 20 small group discussions, and by small group discussions, we formed small groups of, a group on arts and culture with, over 10 representatives, a small group with merchants, a small group with street vendors, where we had over 35 street vendors attend. So we've had over 20 of these small group discussions which are sector-based. We've had over 600 plus community online surveys come in. We've had we offered virtual hours during the month of February with a total of about 6 to 7 virtual hours offered. We've had 3 online events where we've had over 300 people attend, and we've been offering Armory tours since the beginning of this month, where we've had over 100 people attend. So in total, as you see through these numbers, we've already engaged with over 1,000 people, and we expect to reach about 2,000 or more by the end of this process. So the first public workshop that we held in November was focused on community values and needs assessment, understanding what the community identifies as its needs. And the tools that we used at this workshop included worksheets, community values surveys. We had a great interactive mural where we let people kind of just tag up ideas, and this is an image of that. We had posters with the history of Kingsbridge Armory, and we had discussions around values. All that information from Public Workshop 1 was then used to design Public Workshop 2, which was focused on priority uses for the Armory. During this time, we did not have access to the Armory as the drill hall was under remediation for asbestos, which has now been cleared. And so one of the special guests of Public Workshop 2 was a huge 3D model of the Kingsbridge Armory, which we had built, and part of Workshop 2 included an Armory Space Lab. We had another community mural. We had use-based discussions. We had posters around context and conditions, and again, engagement worksheets. So some of the core strengths of the Bronx that we've heard throughout the process are community fabric and resiliency, diversity, creativity, its long and rich history, its organizing power, and its green spaces. So these are strengths that people in this process have identified as strengths for the Bronx, or in the Bronx. And then when we've asked people about community values, these are the 7 core values that we've been hearing throughout the process: fostering intergenerational relationships, prioritizing youth, a space that welcomes seniors, a space that can uplift local entrepreneurs and workers, a space that can maximize community ownership, a space that can put the Bronx on the map, and a space that creates jobs and wealth generation. And just to add some context, the Armory, we see it as being an economic engine for the Bronx. We see the Armory as bringing jobs and economic development, not just to the neighborhood, but to the entire borough. And these are some of the industries or sectors that the community has identified and that we have started to have some light discussions with to see the feasibility. And these include trade and construction, light and advanced manufacturing, urban agriculture, green economy and green tech, life sciences, and film and TV. So in terms of priority uses, these are the ones that we got out of workshop 2 and through various conversations and engagement. So these 6 are kind of the priority use buckets that we have categorized things into: retail and entertainment, entrepreneurship and jobs hub, cultural attractions, community gathering and training and education, and recreation and fitness. So just to summarize, we have a few more upcoming engagement events. Most notably, we have today a workshop on how projects are financed, which is being offered by our real estate team. So I encourage everyone to actually attend. It's not necessarily Kingsbridge Armory focus. It's just a general workshop to inform the general public about how development and redevelopment projects are financed, right? What goes into financing these projects of such large scales? You know, what kind of funding sources are usually in these kind of projects? So I think it'll be very informative for folks. It will be virtual on Zoom from 6 to 7:30, and you can sign up on our website. And as mentioned, this Saturday, we have our last big public workshop at Lehman College at their East Dining Hall in the Music Building from 12 to 3 p.m. It will be our final workshop. We usually have 250 people show up. At this one, we expect anywhere between 300 to 500 people. We really do expect a big turnout such that we have 2 dining halls just in case. And just to give you a general sense of the timeline, as mentioned, we plan to launch the document in June and release the RFP in the summer of this year. So we are moving, you know, quickly in the process, but making sure that we are gathering as much input and information as possible. And with that, I think that's the last slide. Yes, so I'll stop there. And if anyone has any questions or thoughts or any slides they want me to go back to.
Any questions from the audience? Fernando, I did see a question, and I think you guys shared the link regarding details on the Armory tour. Oh, we have a raised hand from Ken Brown. Ken?
Thank you very much. Fernando, can you go into more detail about how the history of the Armory will be displayed, made available, how you're engaging the Historical Society, and just in general, how the history of the Armory is going to be captured and exploited?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we have 2 consultants. One is Hester Street, who is doing our community, helping us in terms of facilitating our community engagement. Have been leading, you know, the workshops with us. And then we have WXY, who is doing a building assessment and technical analysis for us of the Armory. And they have really taken a lot of, you know, of the old reports and done more recent studies and done a lot of digging in terms of, you know, the history of the Armory, and between WXY and Hester Street, they have put together these really great boards and presentations that we have used at both public workshops, which are available on our website. So if you go to our website, Kingsbridge Together, you can see all of the posters, the worksheets, and the presentations that we have used at the workshops. And we talk about the history, the neighborhood context, the site conditions, to really help people get an understanding of the building itself, right? Because as we're talking about reimagining this space, we want people to understand the history and the context of the space, which includes having the 3D model in the room, right? So as we're talking about, that the elephant is in the room, people can see it and engage with it. And now that we're able to offer tours, we're encouraging people to also come and experience and step in. So that has been part of the process. And we have also spoken with the Bronx Historical Society and different arts and cultural organizations to see how we can continue to, promote the site's history. Some people want a museum. Maybe that will happen.
Peter, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, can you tell us what your schedule is for issuing the RFP?
Yeah, so as mentioned, we will release the vision plan in June. We're targeting June 1st. And one thing I forgot to mention is that this vision plan will be appended to the RFP. So it will be attached to the RFP, which we're planning on releasing later this summer. So I always joke around and say summer starts June 21st and ends September 21st. So after June 21st, but before September 21st, the RFP will go out. We have already started to work on drafting that. So we're hoping that, sometime midsummer will go out, but we can share that a more concrete date once we have it, but it will go out this summer.
Thank you. I'm just seeing Kenny Agosto from the Bronx Borough President's Office. I see your hand is raised. Kenny, you can unmute.
Hi, Kenny. Don't be shy. I know you.
Right. Maybe that was by accident. But I know that the Together for Kingsbridge initiative and the working group, there is an event actually tonight. Is that true, Fernando, on
Yes.
finance?
That's the event that I was mentioning about how projects are financed. And again, I encourage everyone to actually attend that if you can. I think it'll be very informative. Just, all of you have projects that come to your district, that come to your community board. So I think it'd be great for those who want to hear from EDC what we look for in RFP responses and what typically makes up the financing. I think it'll be very informative. So encourage everyone to attend. As I mentioned, it won't be Kingsbridge Armory focused, but it's being offered as a learning opportunity because of the Kingsbridge redevelopment.
Wonderful. Kenny, I see that your hand is still raised. Are you on? You can
Hi, I'm
unmute.
sorry.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I wanted to know from the original CBAs, were any of those are in place for this go around now, or does that have to be reimposed? And also, are there any educational components to this plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the previous community benefits agreement, or CBA, was in response and negotiated with the previous developer, the Kingsbridge National Ice Center. So since that project was failed, that the community would have to renegotiate a community benefits agreement. But what we're trying to do with this vision plan is ensure that those things that the community has vocalized throughout the years is embedded into the RFP, right? So things like, priority uses or values that they want to see guide the redevelopment, that those things make their way into the RFP. But if the community wants another CBA, they will have to negotiate that once a developer or development team is selected.
Thanks, Fernando. Thanks, Deputy.
Thank you, Kenny.
Kenny. I am not seeing any other hands raised. Fernando, Nate, the entire EDC team, thank you so much for this robust presentation. I know that there's the public working group, the public session this weekend. We will share flyers and there's translation available as well. Is that right?
Yes, so I will be your host and I will be offering the presentation in both English and Spanish. And all of our materials will be available in English and Spanish. And if you're not able to attend, we upload all of our materials and presentation to our website, so you can follow the whole process online as well. And you can take our online survey, which we encourage, all Bronx residents to take, because as the deputy mentioned, this is a project that will be true economic engine for not just Kingsbridge, but the entire borough. So borough input is highly encouraged.
And there will be childcare.
Yes, there will be childcare and there will be food.
And there will be food.
That's always very important. And there will be good vibes and good energy. And I just want to give a quick shout out, because I saw her pop up, to Sam and the council member Pirina Sanchez team, who have been truly, truly, truly instrumental. I think I talk to Sam every day. If I don't talk to her, I'm texting her or definitely emailing her. So this has truly been a joint venture between not just EDC and the council member, but with so many community organizations. And I also look at the deputy borough president herself, Janet, because you and the team have been super engaged and involved. So I applaud all of you and thank you for the time and all your hard work in this process with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fernando. Thank you, Nate. We will share the presentation after the meeting, along with the flyers regarding tonight's event and the one on Saturday. Thank you again, and we look forward for that visioning document.
Thank you, and have a great Thursday, and hope to see some of you tonight and definitely on Saturday. Thank you all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Fernando. Up next, we have the Bronx Community Foundation. We have our very own Dr. Misha Porter. Just a quick summary, the Bronx Community Foundation is a not-for-profit organization that supports and invests in community power to eradicate inequity and build sustainable futures for all Bronxites. The organization has been leading in convening groups to address systemic issues in the Bronx and in distributing resources and funds through participatory grant making. And so with that, we're very pleased and honored to have our very own Dr. Misha Porter present on the Bronx Community Foundation. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Deputy Borough President. It's such an honor and a privilege to be with all of you and to hear about the exciting work happening across the Bronx around the Armory. We know what an important project that is for our borough. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the foundation, be happy to take some questions at the end. And we are really thankful for the partnership that we have with the Borough President's Office. So the Bronx Community Foundation was co-founded in 2017 by brothers Derek and Desmond Lewis. We are the first and only community foundation in the Bronx solely dedicated to delivering resources to the entire borough. It's an honor for me to be here today to talk to you about our work, and I'm also joined by Erica Friend from my team. As the borough president stated, our model is unique. We engage community stakeholders in identifying challenges and designing solutions that create the 4 pillars of sustainability: community, economic security, health, and equity and justice. We've provided a myriad of services for the borough, including over $3 million for food insecurity programs, $1.4 million in cash infusion grants to small businesses, and over 3,000 devices distributed to Bronx students and residents to bridge the digital divide during the pandemic. Some of our key direct programs and initiatives include the creation of the Bronx Cannabis Hub, co-founded with the Bronx Defenders, which provides educational resources on the cannabis industry, and the Bronx Digital Equity Coalition to advance digital equity throughout the borough. We also launched the Bronx Gigabit Center, and these are 2 areas that we are really excited to have been in partnership with the borough president and her team on. We're currently developing our first ever strategic planning initiative aimed at creating the largest blueprint for the Bronx. And we hope to partner with most of you as part of this process and in part of our convenings and conversations. Now, many of you probably know me most as an educator. I've had the honor of and privilege of having a long and rewarding and exciting career in the New York City Department of Education. The majority of that career was in the Bronx and most recently served as the New York City Schools Chancellor. And so at the foundation, it is absolutely critical for us to support education programs as well as developing an education agenda. And with that, we know addressing the literacy needs of students across the borough is critical. And it's also my honor to be in partnership with the group that you're going to hear from today, the Literacy Academy Collective, who bring structured literacy instruction to help students who are struggling readers, as well as those with dyslexia, which is critically important for our borough. At the foundation, we look forward to connecting with all of the community boards in the future. We were so honored to have the opportunity to present in CB5 and would be happy to join your meetings as we look forward to working together to help bring valuable resources to our great borough.
Any questions from the board? I think this is a wonderful opportunity, one, to connect with the foundation and also kind of align the priorities of each and every district and community needs. And I know that Dr. Misha Porter has been, especially with the Twin Parks fire, when there were students that were in need of tech, that they had different techniques, right, to continue their education. The Bronx Community Foundation was crucial in distributing the necessary equipment to ensure that there was no gaps in their education needs. So if there are any questions, I know Dr. Porter is a great connector. This is your opportunity to address them or make that connection. But we will also share contact information, Dr. Porter, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
For the entire board and service cabinet. Thank you so much. Thank you for your
Thank you for having
service.
me.
Do we have the Literacy Academy Collective on?
Yes, we are here.
Wonderful. Take it
Can we
away.
start? Oh, beautiful.
Mhm.
Well, I want to thank everyone for giving us a little bit of your time on the agenda to present Literacy Academy Collective. My name is Naomi Pena, and I am one of the co-founding moms of Literacy Academy Collective. I'll give you a brief history of my why and how we got here. I have been fortunate or unfortunate, depending on the day, of having 4 children with dyslexia to varying degrees. And my oldest is 23. I have a 17-year-old son and I have 13-year-old twins. And what I quickly realized the minute my oldest got diagnosed with dyslexia 17 years ago was that the space was massively misinformed and underfunded. And I found that oftentimes when I would talk to teachers, talk to my principals, the solution that I knew existed, which was an Orphan Gillingham based reading instruction or structured literacy, as we're calling it, I was told no, it didn't exist because it was too expensive and no one was trained. And I just felt it was a major travesty because I am raising boys of color. And I continuously saw the deficiencies that existed, and yet my children were somehow expected to read on grade level, were somehow expected to continue to love to go to school and to read, and yet what they were experiencing in the classroom and in their educational career wasn't met with those expectations. Fast forward during the pandemic, I quickly realized when I saw the gaps that existed in their education. My oldest had suffered he had just disillusioned from his educational career and ended up going to a District 79 high school to get his GED. But on the flip side, I had a 4th grader who was remote learning, and I quickly saw how he couldn't read. And I felt deeply upset, angry, And I knew I had to do something, because if I didn't do something, I knew his trajectory was going to be that of my child that was remote learning to get his GED in the living room. So because of that, I did, and I fully continue to support the public school system, and I'm a diehard public school mom. But I knew I had to leave the public school system to save my now sixth grader. And I had to go to a private school to support him. But in that process, I saw how unfortunately, how inequitable it was, the amount of money that needed to go into the process to hire an attorney, get assessed, get into the school. And I knew it was something that was not feasible to, 17 years prior, Naomi Pena, who did not have the resources to do that for my first son. Because of that, myself and 5 other moms joined together to form the Literacy Academy Collective. Together, we have 10 dyslexic children, so this is near and dear to our hearts, but we also came up with a solution. And to that, I want to kick it over to Ruth Gann, who's one of our co-founders.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having us be here today to talk about the work we're doing. My name is Ruth Gann, and I'm also coming to this wearing multiple hats. I worked in New York City education for 20 years. I was a teacher. I started in the Bronx in District 8. I worked at New Visions for public schools for many years, also in the Bronx with a number of high schools, but I didn't really work in the literacy or dyslexia space professionally until it really hit me personally. So like Naomi, I have my own child who has dyslexia, and kind of watching him go through it made me rethink so much of what I saw. First, as a 3rd grade teacher, like thinking about specific children in my class that I couldn't reach, heads down on desk, just like really not knowing what to do and how to address what I was seeing in my own classroom. And then later, when I was at New Visions, we worked with a lot of transfer schools, so serving 16 to 24-year-old youth. And I worked at one school in particular. It was for court-involved youth. And I remember being in a back room and seeing boys, Black boys, mostly 18, 19, 20 years old, who are using a program called Wilson, which I know now is honestly for dyslexic students, and thinking like, these schools are full of kids who were never taught to read. And so, it's really the personal and professional coming together that brought me to work with Naomi and the other moms in this group to found this school and to found Literacy Academy Collective. I'm going to show you guys a few slides just to share where we are and what we're doing. So I'm going to try to share. Hang on one second. Okay. Okay, can you guys see?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So, we see this as a huge civil rights issue. I'm sure we don't need to explain that to anybody here. Our reading rates in the city are abysmal. And, we see making sure that every child can read as the #1 priority for the work that we're doing. So I can't seem to forward this. Okay, Naomi talked a lot about this, but just to show you what it looks like right now, there really is no solution for the most struggling readers within the public school system right now. So there's some of this is starting to change as we speak, but very little dyslexia screening, very little teacher training. New York City is actually like 5th from the bottom in terms of how well we train our teachers to teach students to read. How well we're integrating science into what we teach our teachers. And the interventions that Naomi's been able to access, I've been able to access, are really out of reach for virtually most New York City families, just the cost of hiring a lawyer, a private neuropsych, getting these services. So our solution, as Naomi is saying, is to create a district public school, which will be really the first place where our students in the public school system and public school families can get the services they need within the school system. What's happening now, honestly, without that is it is a pipeline, unfortunately, to the criminal justice system. So 60 to 80% of inmates at Rikers who are 19 to 21 years old actually have reading and writing disabilities. I'm not going to go in detail through our presentation because I know we have a lot to share, but I did want to share just where we're going. So We are creating a school. It's going to be called South Bronx Literacy Academy. It's opening pending PEP approval in the fall in District 7. And we're hoping, or we're planning that that's going to be the first in what we hope will eventually be a network of schools that are going to support the most struggling readers across the city. But we're so excited to be launching that work in the Bronx and doing that work in partnership with all of you. We are already serving students actually in the Bronx right now. So we have a small pilot program going right now within PS 161 in District 7. We're serving 2 classes of students, 2nd and 3rd grade students who were actually not screened for dyslexia. They were just the students from this small public school, and 20 out of the 30 students came into this program really learning their letter sounds. So we know our children, especially after 2 years of COVID, are really missing a lot of the foundational reading skills. We trained 6 teachers over the summer from our host school, and then another 4 teachers who we hope will apply to become our founding teachers at South Bronx Literacy Academy in the fall. And we're providing a structured literacy program and seeing amazing results. And I'm happy to share what some of that looks like if people are interested. And where we're going is toward this opening of the school. And again, the plan is to open in the fall. We propose that our school will be serving students in grades 2 through 8. And the reason we set it up that way is because lots of students who are the most struggling readers, like Naomi's son, like my son, the other children of the moms in this group, are often not identified until 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade. They're sort of, making it along, and it's unclear that they may have a real struggle, including a learning disability, until they're hitting 2nd or 3rd grade. So our goal is to, let students come into our school flexibly whenever their family and teachers can identify what's going on, that we have an admissions process that makes sure that every seat in our school will go to students who are struggling readers and who really need this kind of intense program. And that's sort of the bones of our school. It will have literacy across the curriculum area. So students will have an extended ELA block, but every teacher in our school, whether they're doing math or social studies or science or gym, will be thinking about how do we integrate the literacy supports, the oral language supports, the reading supports that we know our students so desperately need right now. And so we too have been going through a community engagement process. And Naomi, I'll hand that to you to talk about that, unless folks have questions about the school itself and the program, which I'm happy to take.
So our ask is very simple. We just want you to know that we are here. Our school is geared to serving all of the Bronx. So if there is a space where you would love for us to present, please let us know so we can get in front of your community. If there's any events that you think that we should be present and table, please let us know. The goal is for us to reach as many families as possible. We are going to open up with 2 sections of 2nd and 3rd grade, 72 seats in the fall. So obviously we want to fill them. But I think it's really important that families know that we exist and we're around, and what is needed for them to get into our school. So that is the ask. We are pending approval in April. So once the vote goes through, we're currently doing a lot of outreach currently, but if there is any opportunities for us to continue to do outreach throughout the year and even through the summer, please let us know, because we are embedded in the community in the Bronx, and we want to continue to do that outreach because we expect to be around for a long time. We will be sending the presentation to you all, and then the last page will be where to contact us, so that way you know how to reach us, email us, social medias, websites, all that fun jazz. If we have any questions, happy to take them.
Thank you both, Naomi and Ruth, for the presentation. Any questions from the board? Just checking to see if we have any hands raised. Ken? You can unmute.
Sorry, just following everyone else's lead. No, thank you very much for the presentation. I mean, personally, I find nothing more exciting and invigorating than literacy and writing. To what extent are you able to tap into and exploit the burgeoning writing community in the borough? To what extent do you have speakers come in? You know, the Bronx Council on the Arts has the Writers in Residence program. So I was wondering, do you tap into that? And just generally, in terms of curricula, how do you make the connection between literacy, the joy of reading, and creative writing?
Yeah, I can talk a
Well,
little bit about the curriculum, and then you want to talk about some of the partnerships? Is that?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So curriculum-wise, yes, like, I mean, I wish you could come in and just see our students, like, to be able to read, honestly, for our students this year, to be able to write their name and connect the letter sounds and understand what that means, like, that is the joy, right? Like, to be sitting in a classroom, I mean, I know that all of us do from our personal experience, in even the most joyous, beautiful, progressive classroom, and to not be able to read, like, you just feel locked in. So, we see it in our students already, you know, the sitting up straight and the, I can do it and let me read that. And just, you know, to be able to do something that felt like you were locked out of for so long. We do see it. And so, you know, our kids are young, second and third grade, but the goal is that once our students have these foundational skills, that is going to unlock their access to what we all know is the joy of being able to, you know, be literate and read those things around you. And the writing is honestly similar. So, you know, we use a reading program that really breaks reading skills down to the smallest units, and similarly for writing. So instead of, you know, in our school, instead of seeing, you know, asking third graders to write a 5-paragraph essay that doesn't make sense and is not connected, we might be really working on, you know, let's write a really amazing sentence, and let's learn how to use the word since or because, or how do you express yourself in a more complex way. And so it looks really different when you first walk in. But yeah, the writing program is similarly sort of aligned to how do you build from a sentence to a paragraph to being able to express yourselves. And it's really aligned to the social studies and science curriculum. So using like an expository writing program. And we are really excited about partnership potential. So Naomi, maybe we could talk about that stuff.
For sure. I do want to elevate one quick tidbit. One story just to let you all know, like, the deep impact that we're having. There was, as Ruth said, as a lot of the kids were pre-alphabetic, were, you know, just trying to like struggle to write their name. A couple of months ago, one kid got in trouble for passing a note. And while I don't condone that, I think what you all should understand is, like, this is a kid who was not writing. And so the fact that he was able to put that down on a piece of paper and pass it is huge. And, you know, again, not something to be like going like this about, but in the back of my head, I'm going, yes, like, this is working. So about partnerships, like, this is part of the reason why we're doing these outreach, is because, you know, myself, I'm from the Lower East Side, and we have other members from other parts of the city in Brooklyn. So the Bronx, while my husband is from the Bronx, from South Bronx, um, there's a lot of out there that I don't know. And that is the piece that I'm leading. So I'm leading the community engagement partnership piece for the team. And that's why I'm here. I want you to reach out to me. I want you to tell me about who are the people that you think our students should meet. Personally, myself, because my husband is an artist, like, I can tap that environment and have kids talk to the, you know, have them come in, lead a class and talk about how they struggled with reading and how that's translated for them in their art career. But I think, you know, there's a world out there that our kids need to see, and I want them to be able to see themselves in their community, but also in people that look like them and have done some really great career choices. So that's why I'm here. I want you to connect with me. Let me know who I should be reaching out to and I should keep as part of our portfolio to make sure that they're a partner in our school.
You're going to be sending out the deck with your contact information?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely be in touch because reading is one infection that I really want to help spread.
Right.
Thank you so much for that, Ken. Any other questions? Seeing none, I just once again want to thank the Bronx Community Foundation, Dr. Misha Porter, and the team over at Literacy Academy Collective. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for joining us this morning. And we look, yes,
I'm sorry, just want to, I
absolutely.
think that our friends at Literacy Academy Collective just, I think, left out an important celebration about themselves. And I got to attend an event that they hosted where, just to your point, Ken, about the joy of reading, where kids left with buckets and buckets of books more than they could carry. And it's been a long time since we've seen that level of excitement about collecting books, about engaging in reading and literacy activities and feeling and turning pages. And so I just wanted to lift that up because it was, you know, as a former English teacher, it was a joy to my heart. And it was so exciting to see young people and their parents carrying more taking more books than they could carry. So just wanted to share that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you for that presentation. And Ken, to your point, we will be following up with the presentation and the contact information. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Dr. Misha Porter. Up next, we have our Bronx Borough President, Director of Capital Programs, Betty McCrae, who will provide us with an overview and highlights of the Budget Priorities Report for FY24. Miss Betty, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning. I'm not going to be very long because you can hear my voice. I'm like a little bit. So I'm just going to give just a couple of things that I've noticed in the report that the mayor has been giving. Is that one of the major consistency in the report and the overall vacancy reduction within many city agencies. And you will notice that most of the vacancies will remain unfilled. Saving the city millions of dollars. For one instance, DOE has a projection of $24.5 million. The Department of Sanitation counting for 28 civilian positions, saving the city $2.4 million over several fiscal years. And on page 47, the Department of Buildings, the headcount will decrease by 51 and projected to decrease continually like that in the outer years, saving the city $11 million each of those fiscal years. So that's a lot of money that's being saved with the city, but yet the headcount and the vacancies are going down. And some of those positions will never be filled. That's the projection. Anything can change over, the next fiscal years and depending on the economy and what's happening with there. And if we go to like the CUNY and the SUNY schools, although there are major increases in the tuition, the governor's projecting increases in the tuition over certain years, that the budget calls for modest annual tuition increases, although we know over certain years there has not been a real increase in the SUNY and the CUNY's tuition. But sometimes when that happens, that increase can affect families with lower incomes in their families. They could be affected by that because they may not be able to afford the tuition as they continue to rise over 3% during several fiscal years and several going on like that. And unfortunately, the proposed FY budget fails to fund any of the city council FY13 and key initiatives when it comes to education. However, the governor's budget has proposed increases throughout the State Department of Education, $2.9 billion in total increase, which is the total budget for the state education department is $43.9 billion. Hopefully some of that will trickle down to the city. That's what we're hoping for, And we're going to housing and HPD with the grand plan of the 800,000 units of affordable housing over the next 10 years. Addresses the lack of housing development and hopefully will provide affordable housing, supportive housing for our seniors And for home ownership, home ownership in the Bronx could be very low, and there's a lot of people that really want to invest in home ownership. So we're hoping to build more home ownership in the borough of the Bronx. And even with the $18 million housing blueprint that the mayor has, there still need to be more done for projects that have already in the pipeline where, these costs for the developers, they don't, the cost is rising over 25%. It's been the highest as it been in years for the products, the construction material, just in wages. So it's very difficult for the developers to even get their projects started because of these costs. And even with the headcount with HPD, the headcounts are going down in that as well. So who are the inspectors that have to go out and inspect these properties and things like that? So we're calling for, the mayor to even put more funding into capital funding into HPD projects. And although this is not part of the report, but I just wanted to highlight this because we were in a meeting yesterday with OMB when they were talking about MTA, because the governor's actually proposing that the $529 million that's the MTA budget be shifted to the city, that we take full responsibility for that. And that's not something that she's not agreeing to that. Why should we take the burden for MTA and their lack of planning, for lack of better words, in their budget process? $526 million is what they're trying to put on the city to pay that. They're trying to shift all that money to the city so we can have that paid. And that's just about a little overview. And if we have any amendments, any changes that you guys would like to make, the deputy, I believe, has an announcement. I'm mute. You're on mute.
Of course. Thank you so much, Betty. What we wanted to share this overview. There's going to be time for questions, but I just quickly wanted to mention that pursuant to Section 241 of the city charter, we are forwarding for your consideration to adopt the comprehensive statement on the budget priorities of the Bronx Borough Board for fiscal year 24. But do know that this is a report in response to the mayor's prelim financial plan submitted back in January 2023. And so we did held a public hearing back in February where members of the public and representatives of neighborhood organizations and institutions presented testimony regarding their capital request. But I want you all to know that if members of the board need more, or have additional recommendations, we can vote with amendments or we can vote at a later time. So I just wanted to kind of cast a motion or a feeling of what we like to do. We can delay the vote for a later time in this month. Our deadline is March 30th. Is that right, Betty? Does that sound good for the board, members of the board?
Yes, thank
Yes.
you, Madam Deputy.
Wonderful. Any questions for Betty regarding the report?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the borough president's submission to the mayor.
Do I have? Okay,
Roberto Crespo will second it.
wonderful. Do we want to do a roll call to see? Marisol?
So, we have a motion before the board
Mm-hmm.
and we do have a quorum. I think what the deputy was trying to share is that we have received some inquiries as to whether we can allow more time for review. And that is what we're suggesting, if everyone is open to it. We know that is a comprehensive report and we appreciate the motion that's on the that's on the floor, but we also did receive some requests to have a little bit more time, keeping in mind that it has to be submitted by March 30th.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, I guess the concern is that
Marisol, I'm happy to jump in and motion to delay the vote and give us a little more time at the stated day, and just a little more time would be greatly appreciated.
okay, so just for Robert's rules, right now we have two motions. So we have one to approve and one to not. So we gotta either decline on the first motion and then submit the second one. So
Let's decline. So thank to Marisol's point, thank you so much, Peter, for the motion and Roberto for seconding it. But let's delay the vote. We're gonna delay the vote for a later time. We're thinking of calling back the borough board to meet on the 23rd of March. Is that sufficient time? In the interim, can we welcome recommendations? Great. Kate?
I also wonder if we could use time today or if there could be time before the vote on the 23rd for conversation. I know you mentioned that there was a February open discussion or open forum for folks to come and talk about their capital priorities. I don't remember that being discussed as a time for the borough board to come, and I know that the budget parties weren't created by that point. And so I think it would be really helpful for us as the borough board to have time to discuss the specific document that we're voting on.
Are there any that's perfect. Thank you so much for that, Kate. Are there any questions regarding the report? We can have that discussion now.
No, excuse me, I'm sorry. It was the mayor's preliminary report that came out in January. Our public hearing was in February. So the mayor's budget is open to anyone to read. All we're doing really is picking out certain things and commenting on that and making recommendations on what the mayor had already proposed in his budget in February.
Right, but we're voting
January.
on the priorities that were pulled out, correct? Not the budget.
We're voting on the report as a whole, on the analysis that was done. Obviously, we're open to recommendations from the board members to be added. So either you can either agree or want to amend whatever recommendations were in place, or you want to add your own. We're definitely open to that.
I can jump in. There's a few things that I've jotted down. I haven't had a ton of time since the report was released, but I also don't want to take over the floor. I'm not sure if there's a specific way that you want to do this.
Yeah, Kate, please.
Okay. So the first one is that I didn't see anything in the section on CUNY about the community colleges. Most of the cuts that are being faced in that area are going to have are actually all of the cuts are on community colleges, which has a huge impact on Hostos and BCC in the Bronx. That's very worrisome since they serve students that are often disengaged by the system already. In the section on DOE, there was no recommendations around recruitment and retention, which we know is a huge issue and one of the reasons why there is such a financial crisis in our public schools. In DYCD, I think it's really important if we're going to be talking about preserving and increasing programs to also talk about increasing the funding rate for human service workers. It's often the same folks doing, multiple projects at different times of the day or different times of the year. And without a funding increase for them or funding rates, it just becomes really defeating. And that's why we're seeing such a crisis with our nonprofits. Additionally, in the recommendations, there was no talk of the cuts that have been faced by adult literacy programming, which is very big in the Bronx, or of funding cuts for runaway and homeless youth, which has a citywide impact and has been a crisis for years, even though it's largely ignored. And currently there are only 60 beds, 60, for 21 to 24-year-olds throughout the entire city. And then additionally, I didn't see anything around SCA. And I know, at least for my district, but I'm pretty sure I've spoken to some other community boards and council members who have a similar issue in the Bronx is that we have a real lack of outdoor and or play space. There are a number of schools I could pull off the top of my head that have absolutely no outdoor space and no play space within their school building. And unfortunately, the only recommendation that they're usually given is from SEA that, well, go ask your council member and borough president for money. And because these are often very large projects, it just pushes it back years and years. And so I'd love to see a recommendation around ensuring that all schools, especially elementary schools, because of their specific needs, have play spaces. And then the council member and I are still reviewing the entire document. So this is, I think, mostly from the first half. And we'll definitely send along further recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. And I encourage all of you to also take a deeper dive into the recommendations. And if you have anything to share prior the vote, we're happy to include it in the report and share that right before the vote. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing awareness to that. So we appreciate it. So we'll be in touch regarding our voting date. And in the interim, we welcome recommendations. We'll embed it into the report. Any questions, Betty, Marisol, myself, we're here to support and walk you through this process. So we appreciate the intentionality behind that. Thank you. Any other questions on the budget report? Seeing none. All righty. Well, we'll move into announcements. First up, I want to bring in our Director of Community Boards, Kiara Gannon, to discuss CEC.
Hi, good morning. This is Kiera, the Director of Community Boards. I just wanted to announce a few trainings coming up from the Civic Engagement Commission that I have emailed out to each community board, but if you are interested in signing up or having any issues, let me know. The Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development is hosting a training on equity and land use. That's going to be on March 21st for Bronx community boards, and then March 29th for all boroughs. So again, I've sent this out. Let me know if you have any other questions. CEC has also done accessibility trainings in the past 2 weeks. I will continue to send out to boards any trainings, and I urge you to send it to your members who may be interested. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kiera. Next up, we have Jutan Hortzman, Director of Planning and Land Use, regarding the Cross Bronx Expressway study.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick announcement on the Cross Bronx Expressway, as Deputy Borough President was stating. So the first working group meeting occurred yesterday. It had reps from City DOT, City Planning, State DOT, and Health Department. This is part of the 2-year RAISE grant study that was received. And they noted, the one thing I want to note is they had a general timeline. There are going to be a number of community workshops, basically starting the first one in April of this year, going to summer of next year. There will be updated information on the webpage, which I'll put here in the chat in a minute. And so there will also be a link there, which will allow you to reach out to them if you want to be included in the material. So if anyone wants to be part of the study that isn't, please reach out to that. And then the idea being that there will be a final and draft, final report basically next year, 2024. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jutan. Up next, we have Dr. Nancy Keck, Director of Health and Human Services.
Hello, everyone. I think Chris is going to share the one graphic.
Yep, 1 second.
So I'll start. Last year, in late spring, early summer, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation launched a project to monitor air quality across our borough. There was a state climate justice working group that selected 10 areas across New York State for this pilot. It's a 1-year pilot starting, it started right after it was launched in 22, and it's going through this year. And essentially, there are very fancy Priuses that are decked out with interesting equipment on board. We have some graphics there to show you. Many of you must have seen these cars driving through your neighborhood in the Bronx. And if you have not, I'm sure you will. Keep an eye out, you will see them. They are monitoring greenhouse gases, 5 in particular, the graphic shows what they are, as well as particulate pollutants. The goal of that is to create air quality maps. So as they drive, on one side of the car, there is an intake, and then in the boot, they have this very fancy $1 million equipment. They hired local workforce to actually do the mapping of the Bronx. I put on the website because you can get a lot more detail. And they do multiple passes, block by block by block. So there are other areas in New York City where small sections of the borough are being monitored. In northern Manhattan, northern Brooklyn, parts of Queens near JFK Airport, out in Long Island, and then there are some upstate areas in Rochester, Buffalo. But the Bronx is the only area where the entire borough is really classified as a disadvantaged community. So we get a map of our entire borough. And that provides us with very unique opportunities to do some work around what happens with the data. You know, it's really going to drive solutions about how to think about how to use that information and ultimately do really meaningful policy work around air quality in our borough and what to do about the polluters, because this process will identify where they are and who they are. So the DEC has asked us to encourage community participation in their quarterly reports. The next one is coming up at the very end of this month. They've had 2 prior ones last year. And I really want to encourage folks. We want people from every sector, from education and health and businesses and environmental justice groups. Everyone should be at the table. The Bronx has a particularly vested stake and unique opportunity. And the more of us that are there as voices representing the borough, the better. So that's it. I encourage everyone. You will be getting reminder emails. We will send a link. These are virtual meetings. And if you look on the website, they are always recorded and you can always get the link for the recorded meetings and the information. That's it. I hope you
Wonderful.
enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Keck. And with that, we just wanted to add on to our Bronx BP announcements. Today, we have our Women's Heritage Month celebration scheduled for 5:30 p.m. at the Fun 100 Hall. We will share flyers regarding that. Our Irish Heritage celebration is also scheduled for the 22nd of this month at Rambling House at 5:30 p.m. We will share the flyer for that as well, followed by our Greek Heritage celebration on the 24th at St. Peter's Orthodox Church. We will share that flyer as well, along with all the announcements that were shared by the team. I want to open it up to any agencies or members that have any announcements. We have Effie from DP. You can unmute.
Sorry. Good morning, everyone. This is Effie Artizzoni from DEP. I've sent some information regarding DEP's amnesty program. The program is available until April 30th from January 30th. It is for all property owners, whether you own a building, a commercial property, a 1, 2, 3 family home. If you have outstanding water bill debt, you can contact the agency, and the DEP amnesty program is basically 100% forgiveness of accrued interest or late payment fees on your existing debt. So I added some information in the chat. Everybody can contact DEP at 718-595-7000. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much, Effie. And I have Orlando Torres from CCHR. Go ahead.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Madam Deputy. I just wanted to quickly note that the Commission on Human Rights is working with Bronx Defenders and their Block Leadership and Organizing Center to put on a housing forum for the Bronx on March 23rd at Bronxworks. That's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. And anyone who comes can learn how to obtain legal support for housing issues or criminal justice issues. You can learn how to organize and stand up for youth, how to organize a tenants association. So it's going to be a great event and one of many that we have planned for the spring and summer. So yeah, hope to see everyone there. I'll throw some information in the chat. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Orlando. And if folks haven't had the chance to look at the chat, please do. A ton of important information has been shared, links, contact info, and updates. So if you have a moment before exiting WebEx, please look at the chat. Again, we will follow up with the presentations this morning from the Kingsbridge Armory, the Bronx Community Foundation, and the Literacy Academy, as well with contact information from all our attendees and representatives. Thank you all so much. We'll also be in touch regarding our date to vote on the budget report. If you can take this time to please really look through the report, share any questions ahead of the voting date. Any questions or concerns, we are here. Betty's here, Marisol's here, I'm here. You all know how to reach me. Feel free to stay in touch before and we're aiming for the 23rd. If anything changes, again, we'll keep you up to date. But we look forward to your recommendations and additions towards our budget report. Thank you all very much for being with me, joining us this morning. Again, happy Women's History Month. Jusan, I see you have your hand raised. Is that okay? We're good? Okay, wonderful. So that concludes our Borough Board meeting. Thank you once again. Happy Thursday, and we'll see you all very soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.